So for those with keen eyes on the channel, I have already done a video on this interview before, but I wanted to revisit it in this type of format because when I did the video, it was all behind the camera type thing. So thought I'd watch the full interview and just react to it as we go. So yeah. So I wasn't aware before watching it last time, but this is a bloke called Pat Kenny, who is like a bit of a Parkinson in Ireland. But judging from the comments on the last video I did on it, he's not very well liked over there. So yeah, let's see how he gets on here.
First guest tonight. My first guest tonight is an accomplished musician, artist and poet, but many of you will also know him because of his high-profile relationship with supermodel Kate Moss and his public struggle with drugs. Now, he's a good, solid Irish name, so there must be Irish in there somewhere. Will you welcome, please, the lead singer of Baby Shambles, the seemingly irrepressible Mr. Pete Doherty. Hello, Pete. You're very welcome to the show. Please make yourself at home.
Yeah, he's tall, and I know people bang on about him being tall. There was a bit of a debate in one there. There's a bit of a debate in the comments on a recent video about how tall he is. Someone said he's 6'4", someone said he's 6'2". But I'm 6'2", he looks taller than me.
You're very welcome to the show. Please.
Mind you, he stood on a step there, so that's adding a few inches, so to speak.
Make yourself at home. Okay, Pete, it's the first time for me to meet you.
I love you too, darling.
First time to meet you.
Hi, Mum. Sorry.
First time to meet you. So all I know really about you.
I always likes looking at people's what they're wearing. I know it's a bit shallow, maybe, but this thing's mad, isn't it? It's like a chain. It's like a it's like a bike chain or something around his neck. Interesting.
Is what I've read about you. So I want to know how you're doing at the moment.
I'm doing all right, yeah, no thanks to BMI Airlines. Like, 6 hours in Heathrow. We don't hear about that, do
I
you?
was waiting for you for like 4 hours outside Trinity College today.
Did you hear that, folks, at home? She was waiting for Pete for 6 hours outside Trinity College today.
Yeah.
You are his #1 fan. #1 fan, all right.
Do you reckon she was maybe boozing outside that college, or maybe that was afterwards? I don't know.
You know, when it comes to the stuff that's written about you, we all read about the drugs. What sort of a place are you in right now? Are you...
So in there early with the old drugs chat. I'm not messing around.
Are you clean? Are you coping?
Yeah, I'm coping mostly, mostly clean. I won't lie to you. It's like, yeah, it is a struggle, but I don't know what's...
Is that so you got a cigarette and a plectrum in the hat there. Useful. Multi-use to the old hat there.
Say, we could be here for hours, like, I don't know.
Yeah. I was just wondering, because you're a guy with a brain, you got good results in your exams, you were heading, I don't know for what sort of a place, and then somewhere along the way, music came into your life, but a lot of other stuff came into your life too. Do you have any regrets about any of the stuff that happened to you?
I think for a long time, it was just music. I never really tampered with the dark side, if you like, as people see it, until long after I kind of started making a bit of money and doing well with the music. You know, my brain was fully formed, and I was kind of in my mid-20s before I, started dabbling.
Gotta say, it's quite an honest approach from Doherty here, and he could have shut down a bit, considering it's the first questions he asked, but seems open to talking about it, at least at this point.
In fact, I was quite an innocent soul, really. You know what I mean? I didn't even know what drugs were until I was 23. Yeah.
At school, I've heard it said that you're kind of a studious fellow, an academic fellow, and that you wouldn't have been the most popular guy in the class. You wouldn't have been.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah. Was that so?
Well, it wasn't a boffin, but I think it just came quite naturally to me. I just enjoyed reading, and that wasn't really the norm. The type of school I went to, it wasn't, no one expected to do well in their exams, and hardly anyone went on to do A-levels. So it was a bit, yeah, it was quite.
And you did brilliantly at both the GCSEs and the A-levels.
I did all right, yeah. I did all right.
Then came music. and you have had.
He also seems quite, yeah, he seems particularly sober in this interview, let's say. Like even the Jonathan Ross one, I mean, this is 2009, so it's a different time. But yeah, he seems like pretty, well, very coherent in this interview, which is worth noting, I guess.
Phenomenal success. You have your masses of fans with both the Libertines and Baby Shambles. And then you kind of went off track in terms of drugs. Now, to the point that you and your dad were estranged for a while because of, I suppose, the trouble you got yourself into.
Yeah, no, well, we still are. I mean...
Do you not talk to him?
Well, in his mind, if I'm still using in any way, then basically I'm not his son, so... but my mum speaks to me secretly, like, you know...
Not anymore, it's not a secret. But does that hurt you a lot, that you can't have the normal kind of communication, or are you so wrapped up in your own world and your own addictions that they take precedence over family time?
I try and wrap myself up enough so that it doesn't get to me and I don't feel anything. But really, yeah, of course it gets to me because I love the man, and I grew up kind of idolising him, and yeah, it just breaks my heart that for him that's the be all and end all of our relationship, whether or not there's something to his mind despicable in my bloodstream determines whether or not he talks to me. I'd love to just like go to football with him like I used to, or go for a drink and just be his son and have a father, because.
You know, when you get to a certain point, you're responsible for your own life. You know, up to a point, your parents have to take the rap for the way you turn out. But after a while, it's you. And, you know, what you do to your own body is, in a sense, your own business. But when you do it publicly, often you not only hurt yourself, but you hurt your family, who, can't... They may kind of appear to disown you, but they don't disown you, really. I mean, they are behind it all, the people.
Bit of a dressing down here, isn't it? And then, I mean, people probably think this is fair play, but this guy, it transpires as only taking interest in like one side of his life, really.
People who love you most.
That was the problem, I think, for him. He couldn't understand why it was thrown in his face, if you like, in the papers, and he saw it as a complete betrayal and upsetting my mum and my nan and my sisters, and just saw it as selfish. But in actual fact, a lot of the stuff that was written, it's all distorted and exaggerated. I'm not making excuses, but I think a lot of the time I don't remember him growing up. I don't remember him reading the Daily Star or the Sun. So all of a sudden, they've become gospel,
It's hard to ignore those. If you go into your local newspaper shop to buy the paper, you might buy the Guardian or the Telegraph, but right up there in your face maybe is a picture of Pete, and
not looking his best. No.
Not looking his best, and maybe he feels a terrible shame.
Gorgeous.
Well, this is a nice cheery conversation, isn't it?
And your dad, the Doherty part, of course, comes from your dad. So what's the Irish connection?
Yeah, and you got to say, it's like he's caught him in a good mood. Well, he's caught him in a mood where he wants to talk about it maybe here as well. I think the interview's got quite lucky in that respect, even though he's literally saying that he's brought shame on the family. So, see what he's got to say next.
Ted Doherty, he came to Paddington, I think it's from Waterford, just after the war, I think. Met a nice English girl called Dolly, Iron Man, still with us. I never met Ted, he died long before I was born, but there's a few. I remember when we played Derry with Baby Shambles, I had about 4,000 cousins in the audience. It was ridiculous.
The talent that you have, I mean, it runs to being artistic, to being poetic, being a great songwriter and a musician. And you are admired certainly by one person in our audience, but by many, many more around the place. Do you feel any responsibility at all as a role model, for example? That people look at you and they think it's cool to be like Pete? So she says it is. She says
no, she doesn't. She doesn't mean that. I think one thing that's been apparent that's been a result of my drug use has been like the loss of important relationships, you know, like with my family or whoever. You know, the loss of great opportunities with bands and missed tours and loads of embarrassing situations. I don't see how anyone could see how, you know, could glorify that or say that there's anything cool about, you know, fucking your life up through drugs, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there is two sides to this, isn't there? Like, he's obviously trying to justify it to himself or like put his head in a space where he doesn't feel responsible for anyone making poor decisions. And I guess it's not down to him what people do with their life, but I think it's impossible to say that it didn't influence anyone making bad decisions in terms of drug use. I'm just saying that as someone from the point of view who, like, I did look up to the Libertines when I was young, like 18, kind of that going out age. And their hedonistic approach definitely influenced the way I approach nights out and stuff. Like, I would go hell for leather, if you like. Not to the point of using harder drugs, but I know that there must have been people that did because they wanted to emulate the. I met people who did do hard drugs. I remember meeting a guy in London who modelled himself on Doherty, sorry, and by all accounts was dabbling in hard drugs. And I'm not saying that's can Pete Doherty take responsibility for that? I'm not saying he should, but you know, people are easily influenced, and I guess they're obviously young at the time. He's young himself at the time. He said he was 23 when he got into like the drug side of things. So it's impossible to be that level-headed or that balanced at the time for everyone to think about what you're going to be putting out there. It seems to me that he liked living in so he almost had like a fictional life, didn't he? It felt like, where he was just in his own bubble, living out his own escapades. That's what it felt like watching certain documentaries and interviews. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I'm not sure anyone in Doherty's position could process the idea of, you know, influencing people to make really poor decisions or life-changing decisions type thing. So I can understand what he's saying. You know, why would people look at the mistakes he's made and want to repeat them in terms of missed opportunities? But you know, we're talking about young people here who are not gonna, who won't be seeing these as mistakes. They'll just be seeing it as their hero, kind of doing what they want, being a bit of a maverick, if you like. So yeah, I think it's easy with an older head on to be like, well, yeah, obviously he's making mistakes. But at the time, it was all part of the story and the adventure, really. But yeah, interested to hear people's comments on that. So yeah, have your say down below.
And you try time and time again to get rid of. Do you see it as a blight on your life, as a curse on your life?
No, I don't think about it and try not to talk about it. It's like, it's quite unusual for me to have this conversation.
Well, it's just that you mentioned there that all the things that you missed, all the loves lost, the family severed, all because of this, you know. And you know what, Pete?
There's the thumbnail. The previous video I did on this is my highest rated video ever, so I think that's got a lot to do with this thumbnail, so cheers, Pete.
When I'm talking to you, it reminds me a little bit of talking with Shane McGowan, who's also a great poet, a great songwriter, a great talent. And, you know, he has a fondness, to put it politely, for alcohol, absolute. It sits lightly with him, though. I mean, you know, he is happy that that's the way he lives.
I don't understand why this is the be all and end all of, you know, how you look at someone and how you judge someone. I don't.
Yeah, but that's what happens.
Like 12 questions you've asked, and they've all been about drugs and alcohol and.
I could ask you about love, because the most prominent thing that hit the tabloids was your relationship with Kate.
No, that's like talking about drugs, though, isn't it?
Well, not really, no. I mean, okay, she might be your drug. But I mean, in a sense,
hasn't the weather been bad recently?
It has. I believe.
I've been snowed in out in the country. It's been murder. All
right. Your ambitions for yourself.
Well dealt with there by Pete, I think. Managing to keep good humour during the barrage of personal questions.
For the future. What would you like for yourself?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I really don't know. I've got a deep-rooted determination to write great songs, and I still feel that I'm yet to, you know, like the way you've been talking to me about drugs and Kate or whatever. It's that's the first thing in your mind when you think of me. I'd rather I don't know if you could even name the song that I've written.
Possibly not.
Possibly not. No. Well, I'd like to change that for a start. You know, I'd like.
Absolutely done him there, hasn't he? Absolutely done the interviewer. Can't name one song, despite him going on his show. I mean, it's like he's read his Wikipedia before he's come on or something, and not actually bothered to listen to any of the music. Even though Pete's on here to promote his solo album, I think, because he plays "Last of the English Roses" at the end. So yeah, he's put it on him there. Fair play.
Like you said, you know, I'd like to imprint a melody in your heart and in your head, and have that as the way you think of me.
You're going to sing a song, I hope.
I'll give it a go.
Okay. Tell me about the provenance of this song. Is it new? Is it something you've...
The title's quite old. It's stolen from a Smith's bootleg called "The Last of the English Roses." Yeah, it's something about.
That's quite interesting. I didn't know that. But he recorded this album with Stephen Street producing it. So obviously that link there with the Smiths. So yeah, good little fact there.
About schoolboy romance, and they're actually alright. Yeah, there's a girl called Aisling Edgecock who I quite fancied many moons ago. Do you want to play it?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Unfortunately, I can't play the sound on this bit because it will get copyrighted. So, but yeah, should we see what Pat Kenny made of the performance? I mean, I just watched it now, and it's definitely a good rendition of the song. Doherty's voice is on form. Lovely bit of reverb that they've added, so fair play. You can tell you what, he probably wanted to put one up, Pat Kenny, there, to be fair. Give him like extra impetus to play. I mean, I did watch an interview recently with Rob, I can't forget his surname. I was thinking about doing a video on it. I'll put a screenshot here of it. And it was interesting because he said he finds it hard talking about his relationship between using drugs and songwriting because essentially, because of everyone else's like reaction to the drug use, it would almost make him extra determined to be productive in terms of songwriting. So it'd almost encourage him to like write loads of songs. So he doesn't want to talk about that in a way that makes it sound like he's promoting the idea of using drugs for songwriting. But it's probably a similar thing here where he's trying to prove Pat Kenny wrong. You know, playing this song to him and saying, "Have a bit of that, son. Not bad, is it?" It's a good song, to be fair.
So, Pete, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
When are the gang going to see you out there performing with Baby Shambles again in Ireland?
In Ireland?
Anytime soon?
Yeah, I should imagine so. We'll do something, right. Where do I collect the money from? It's a joke.
Hang on, I'll let me write you a check. All right. Pete Doherty.
Looks a bit crestfallen there that his gag didn't land, didn't he? But you know, at least he gave it a go. Never mind.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, this Pete.
Can't believe they let that woman stay. I mean, fair play. Fair play to her. Certainly made Pat Kenny know that he's got fans.
All right, this Pete Doherty there.
Interested to know your thoughts on that. It's good to watch the full interview. I think I only watched segments before or commented on segments on my last video. But yeah, some interesting points. But you know, there is a balance to it. You know, did you think it was fair? Do you think it was a fair line of questioning from the interviewer? I mean, personally, I think it wasn't very balanced. The fact that he's not listened to one song from Pete. I mean, he said he couldn't name a song, which suggests he hasn't listened to any. He certainly didn't jump in to say that he had listened to any. So I think that's poor form from him. Apparently he's got a bit of a reputation for being a bit, I don't know really. Definitely wasn't getting any praise in the last video. Not one of Ireland's biggest national treasures by the sounds of it. You know, Doherty's he put himself in this situation really, didn't he? I think he'd probably admit that in terms of his antics and some of his decisions. But also, you know, he has produced great music, certainly in my opinion and a lot of other people. So yeah, it would have been good to see more of a balanced interview. It's interesting to see that this is what the mainstream media kind of thought of Pete at the time. So yeah, that point that Pete made at the end there, that he wants to be more known for his music. You know, we're like 15 years on from this interview now, so I guess now the Libertines are making music again, and he seems to be in a better place in terms of his drug use. You know, he's certainly seems to be off the hard drugs, and he's becoming somewhat of a family man, it seems. You know, the new Libertine stuff is getting played on Alexa Radio 2. They're doing sessions on Radio 2 and stuff. So you would think that he's moving towards his goal of becoming more known in the mainstream for his music rather than the drugs. But maybe it's a bit of a balance. I don't know. But what do you think? Do you think people understand him? Do you think people have got the right idea of Pete Doherty when they think of him? Have your say in those comments.